As you guys know, I'm a huge music enthusiast, and I'm often asked, what do I listen to? What is good reference material? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasello with Audioholics. I'm going to be talking to you about the kind of music I listen to as reference material. Not everything on my Apple playlist is there because I like the content, but I think it's good demo material. And I've said this before in the past, I've got multiple systems in the Audioholics Smart House, but the best two-channel experience I could possibly get is actually in my theater room because it's such a well-done, acoustically controlled listening space. I've got the flagship RBH SVTRS active speaker system, which is absolutely amazing. If you ever get a chance to listen to it at a demo somewhere, I do highly suggest it. And because I have such good symmetry in the room with good acoustical control listening space, I just get imaging that is mind-blowing. Like listening to two-channel music, sometimes I think the surround speakers are on because I hear so much wide soundstage. Sometimes I think the center channel's on because the phantom center is really strong. It's just a beautiful experience. I spend a lot of my weekend in this room listening to music, and it makes me a happy camper. So I wanted to share with you some of the stuff on my Apple Music playlist, and then you guys can give me some comments down below on what you think. Now, there's a mix in here between two-channel and Atmos. I'm not going to cover the Atmos stuff. If this video is popular enough, I could do a separate one just on Atmos. But I'm going to start with some mainstream listening here. And believe it or not, Beyonce has some pretty well-done recordings. Her most recent one, I'm not a huge country fan, but some of the songs on here are done really well, like the redo of Blackbird, a classic Beatles song. I love the way she overlays her vocal tracks on it. I think it's well recorded. And if you're a Beatles fan, I think you'll like it. Some people will say it's overproduced, but personally, I really enjoy it. There's a couple of tracks on here that really stand out that just sound great, fun to listen to. And of course, Lemonade from 2019. There's some really good recordings on this album that really test the limit of the bass capability of your system. So if you've got speakers that aren't up for the task, you definitely should have some bass management going with some active subwoofers, possibly 2, maybe 4. I think you would appreciate this album because there's some good stuff on here, and it just sounds great. Partition is one in particular, really will let you determine if you have your bass set up right in your system. There's just like these long sustained bass notes, and they sweep up and down in frequency, and you'll find holes in your system if you play Partition. And I thank Teo Nikolakis for giving me this recommendation. Let's go through some other stuff here that I've got. So I was never a huge Chuck Mangione fan. I've grown up listening to some of his popular stuff on the radio, what have you. I was unaware of the song Children of Sanchez, which is from a movie, I believe. The song is absolutely amazing. If you like jazz, this is not smooth jazz. This has actually got a lot of instrumentation in it. It's a long song. It's a 14-minute song, but it doesn't feel that way. And it starts out very unassuming. You don't think it's going to be this wide dynamic range song, but by the time you're in the middle of it, you will not believe how loud the loud parts get and how soft the soft parts get. It's just such a delight to listen to Children of Sanchez in two-channel, properly done when you have a really good system. I do recommend you guys check that out. It's great. It really is. Some fun tracks here. Deadmau5 or Dead Mouse. I always call it Deadmau5 5. I don't want to get sued by Disney. XYZ. It's a repetitive track. It's not something that's going to win awards in terms of music complexity, what have you. But it's really a way to impress people with your system. There's just so much detail going on in the bass, the high frequency stuff. It's just a real fun track to listen to. I do recommend checking that out. Another artist you may not be aware of is Dianne Reeves. She's got a beautiful voice. She's a jazz singer. She puts lots of instrumentation into her music. I've used Never Too Far back in the day to set up systems to make sure that the bass was right. Like 2 tracks, Never Too Far and Come In, are really good demo tracks to making sure you get your bass set up right. And then there's another album, When You Know. Really good sound quality on this as well. Good music content. I really like it a lot. Dominique Fils-Aime, as you guys know, I've had her on the channel as a guest. And in fact, she's got her latest album that's in Atmos. I turned them on to Atmos, and they had their album produced in Atmos. And if you buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out, it's going to have Audioholics liner notes on how to get the best Atmos experience. But that being said, I love her 2-channel stuff. I think Nameless is a beautifully well done album. It's an audiophile great album. The track Birds, of course. Once Don Dunn and I started talking about that track online, it started becoming reference demo material at all the trade shows. So everybody that's an audiophile pretty much knows about this now. But if you guys are unaware, I would definitely check out Nameless. I also really like the album Stay Tuned. Where There Is Smoke is a great album, great song. Gun Burial, Big Man Do Cry, just great stuff. It's kind of like Sade style music, jazzy, lots of vocal overlays over it. It just sounds great. I would definitely recommend checking it out. More popular stuff. I'm not a huge Drake fan, but I think this is his best album, and there's some good songs on here. Fair Trade. I'm surprised at how much bass is actually in that, because I played it in my car and it sounds okay in my car. But when you have infrasonic level bass in your room, you will appreciate tracks like that. I think Fair Trade is a real classic. No Friends in the Industry is a song that I could just relate to, because I feel like sometimes I'm an outcast in the audio industry for my views on cables and debunking snake oil and stuff like that. But it's a fun album to listen to. If you're slightly into rap, I think you will enjoy it. It's really well done. I listen to a wide range of music. I could go from rap to prog rock to jazz in the same listening session. Speaking of which, let's go to George Benson, one of the greatest jazz guitarists of our time. This guy is just amazing. He's still touring, which blows my mind. I think he's like 83 years old. He's just an inspiration. He's just a great person in life, someone that writes music that's inspired by the love of his wife. And he's got some of the best scatting, along with his playing. His jazz guitar playing is second to none. This one actually surprised me. I found it recently. I didn't know he had more modern music. I was always listening to stuff from the 70s and 80s. But this album has got some really good nuggets in it. Tequila sounds really cool. Naima sounds really good. There's just a couple of really good tracks in here. That Lady of My Life, which is a Michael Jackson song, I love his take on it. I would definitely encourage you, even if you're not a jazz person, I just think it's generally good music. Check him out. Let me know what you guys think about George Benson. Let's go down the list here. Jacob Collier. This is an interesting artist. I was introduced to him by my friend Nick Rich from Audio Advice. Apparently, he plays all the instruments. He's like a music virtuoso. And the song Hideaway is really interesting because there's so much decorrelated information in that track that it sounds like it's in surround sound on a good 2-channel system. But then when you go and upmix it with the Dolby Surround Upmixer, it's magic. It really shows you the benefits of the Dolby Surround Upmixer over Oro upmixing, because the Oro upmixing is more like an all-channel stereo with reverb, whereas the Dolby Upmixer will extract that information of the decorrelated information and actually sound like discrete surround sound. And in fact, when I listen to Hideaway upmixed with the Dolby Surround Upmixer, I prefer that sound over a lot of the dedicated spatial audio music that we're finding on Apple Music, because some of that stuff just comes off as really compressed. So 2-channel upmix can be really magical if done right. James Blake is another artist that will blow your mind with bass and the way he does his track overlays. I think it's really well done. I'm going to recommend to you guys in particular the album here with his like distorted face, Limit to Your Love. will work out your speakers and your subs. Please don't come at me if you blow a woofer out on this track. Be careful. It's got some real deep bass and it sounds great. James Blake, all of his recordings, even his Atmos recordings, like the album over here, with the like puzzle pieces, Friends That Break Your Heart. That's a well done Atmos mix, and I'll do a separate video on my favorite Atmos mixes, but definitely check out James Blake. Now, again, as I said, I'm a jazz fan. I like fusion jazz. I like straight up jazz. I'm very open when it comes to that. I like freeform jazz. Jean-Luc Ponty actually has some well recorded stuff, and I didn't expect that because I always thought that some of this older jazz would not transfer well digitally. But No Absolute Time, there's a track called Savannah. This is a must listen to. It's a fun song. There's so much, again, the decorrelated information with the high frequency stuff going on and just the percussion stuff going on. It sounds so expansive in your room. And the track just, like the chords he uses and the notes he uses, just hits all the pleasure centers in my brain. It just makes me feel great when I listen to that track. So I would definitely check out Jean-Luc Ponty. I grew up with a taste for passion. There's a couple of songs on here like Dreamy Eyes that I really like, Taste for Passion, that kind of stuff. Awesome music if you're into jazz. He's a violinist, but he's got some of the best drummers. He works with some of the best guitarists. His music is just very complex, but also fun to listen to. So I would check it out if you get a chance on that. Let's see. I am also a huge John Scofield fan. So this is straight up jazz, funk jazz, you name it. Groovelation is a great album. There's some good tracks on here, like the song Groovelation, really fun to listen to. Take a look at that. I love the drumming. I love the guitar on it. Just excellent stuff there. Pat Metheny and John Scofield, one of my favorite jazz albums, because it's got two of the best jazz guitarists of our time on it. Not the highest fidelity, but really good fidelity. And just a great jazz album from start to finish if you're into that sort of music. This is another one, Swallowtails. I like this album a lot, mostly because I love the drumming of Bill Stewart. He's a fantastic jazz drummer. Listen to the song Awful Coffee, and you'll be blown away by just the intricacies of his drumming. Just how effortless he is, how he has such control of his speed, and it's just a badass song. This is jazz at its best, in my opinion. I wish there was more music today being played like this because it takes me to another level. I pour myself a little whiskey, I sit down on the weekend, I put this on, and I just evaporate. And this is actually some of this jazz music I do prefer listening in the Oro up mixer with the settings kind of medium, because I like the more forward bias of the sound as opposed to it just being all around me and maybe a little overly echo. I like it to sound more like I'm in a small jazz club. So you could experiment whether you like 2-channel or you like to upmix with the Dolby Surround upmixer or Oro upmixer, or even if you have an Anthem processor, the Anthem Music upmix is really good. This album lends itself to sound great in 2-channel, but it also sounds great in upmix, and it really depends on what hits my mood at the time. Sometimes I just want to hear it in 2-channel. I want to hear what my system could do with 2 speakers on music like this. It's uncompressed. It just sounds awesome. Really does. Let me go through some more of the selections here, and don't judge some of this music. It's not some of my favorite, but it is good demo material. Marian Hill, I actually thought that was the name of the artist, but it's the name of the band. This is a fun album. Don Dunn turned me on to this one. Differently will show you what your system is made of. And anytime I think, well, maybe my sub level is not turned up high enough, I put this track on and then I remind myself, wow, when music has bass, it comes through, and this music has lots of bass, and it's fun music to listen to. It's electronic music, good vocals. Check her out, or check the band out, I should say. I think you guys would appreciate it. My daughter turned me on to this band, Man I Trust. I actually don't like most of their music, but I really like the song Lauren. And what I like about this song is it's not only well recorded, but there's such a strong phantom center in the way it was mixed. And you hear so much percussion and stuff coming from dead center in front of you. It really lets you know that your speakers are imaging properly. And it's just a fun song to listen to. It's kind of spacey. It'll just relax you. You just want to, you look at the lady in the picture and you just want to be there. You know, you want to be riding a bike on those hills and looking at the mountains. It paints a mental picture to you just by listening to all the ambience of the song. Of course, I'm a Michael Franks fan. I don't know if any of you guys listen to Michael Franks, but The Art of Tea is kind of a classic jazz album with vocals, has some of the greatest musicians of its time. Steve Gadd on drums, Larry Colton on guitars. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff there. I hop around depending on my mood, but my favorite Michael Franks album is actually Birchfield Nines. I did a review on this probably 20 something years ago. It's obscure jazz. It's got weird lyrics, but when the mood hits you, you listen from start to finish. And I'm surprised at how good it sounds in 2-channel or up mixed, because it's an old recording, nothing special by any means. But if you're into that kind of music, I think people would really appreciate it. So I could go from that all the way to 9 Inch Nails. And arguably, this is their best album. And if you're in that industrial metal mood, this will reward you. I think the song Piggy is really fun to listen to. There's just a lot of good songs on this whole album. I think the whole thing, Closer, there's so many good songs on here, but you got to be in the mood for this kind of music. And sometimes when I am, this is my fix right here. Let me know if you guys are 9 Inch Nails fans. I'm kind of curious about that. And then I go back to Pat Metheny again. What it's all about is just him on acoustic guitar doing a lot of classic songs like Sound of Silence from Simon and Garfunkel. Beautifully well done. If you just want to chill and you just want to hear really good acoustic guitar from a master, well recorded for sure. Well recorded. This is probably one of my favorite jazz albums. Again, it's got Bill Stewart on drums. Great trio here. When Pat Metheny's in a trio, I think that's when he makes some of his best music. And the song Soul Cowboy, that's jazz at its finest again. Just like I was talking about with the Scofield Awful Coffee, Soul Cowboy is explosive. Just the drumming in it, the dynamics of the music. And what's sad is most people don't know real jazz because all they're exposed to is Kenny G on the radio. And that's a disservice to the jazz industry, in my opinion. When smooth jazz came out in the 80s, it destroyed real jazz. This is real jazz here. This is lumpy jazz. This is the kind of jazz, when I tell you guys I'm a jazz fan, it's this that I listen to, not Kenny G or any of the bubblegum jazz that you hear on modern radio stations. And no offense to people that like Kenny G. I just don't. Peter Cincotti, I never heard of him before. I found this by accident, but he's kind of like this Harry Connick kind of singer. He's a piano player. He's a music virtuoso as well. I personally think Sway, the way he does it, is the best version I've heard. And the fidelity on it is fantastic. There's a super strong phantom center with his vocals. The bass is really deep and extended. And I use this song to determine if my bass levels are right. If my bass is too goose, you'll know it on the song. Or if the bass is too thin, you'll definitely know it. I've listened to the song on multiple systems, and I'm very familiar with this as a reference piece. In fact, my kids get sick of me playing it, but I always put it on when I'm calibrating a system as one of the things that I check to make sure things sound right. Now, guys, I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan. I'm a huge Genesis fan. Genesis, in my opinion, is arguably the best rock band of all time next to the Beatles. That's how much I feel about the music. I love Genesis. New Blood, and the reason why I bring that up is Peter Gabriel was the original singer of Genesis, and he left after The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and he took a break, and then he started his solo career. New Blood is a treat because it's got some of his best music redone in an orchestral style. And I cannot believe how well it's recorded. So if you listen to a lot of Peter Gabriel records, they don't sound that great when you're playing the digital versions streaming or whatever. But New Blood sounds phenomenal. So like the song Rhythm of the Heat, which is from his best album, Security, incredible. It's just really incredible. That's one of my favorites. San Jacinto, Intruder, Wallflower, In Your Eyes, of course, Mercy Street, Red Rain, Darkness from the album Up, I believe it's from, Salisbury Hill. It's just awesome. Sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll just say, like, I'm going to listen to one track off this album and then move on. I find myself listening to the entire thing. It's that good. Really, really awesome. If you're a Peter Gabriel fan, please check it out. Let's see what else we've got here. This is a band I'm unfamiliar with, but a good friend of mine, Jason Dustle, turned me on to this song. Portishead, I guess is the name of the band. Check out the song Glory Box. Really cool. It's kind of like acid rock, funk. I can't really categorize what kind of music it is. I guess it's called electronic, but it's got so many elements of different kinds of music in it. Really cool song. Check it out. I really recommend it. Let's see if there's anything else I want to show you. This is another good song, another jazz singer, very sultry singer, kind of like a Diana Krall. Rebecka, I don't want to say her last name, Tornqvist. I know I'm going to be slaughtered in the comments for mispronouncing her name. Angel Eyes is beautiful sounding recording. I think you guys would enjoy. Sade is, again, one of my favorite jazz female singers. I was surprised by this one as well because this album transferred extremely well to streaming. And there's some extended cuts on these songs like No Ordinary Love. Sounds great. Like a Tattoo, Kiss of Life, Cherish the Day. This is another one of those albums that you listen from start to finish. I don't think there's any bad songs on it. I don't think Sade is capable of making bad music. Her instrumentation is phenomenal. She works with some of the greatest musicians in the industry. Her vocals are just beautiful, silky, great voice, great feel, great vibe. When you're in a mood for this kind of music, Sade never disappoints. And I would really encourage you guys to take a listen for sure. Sam Smith, I'm not a huge fan of, but I do respect the quality of his recordings. I believe this might be an Atmos, the James Bond song, but I think I've listened to it in 2-channel and I was really impressed by it as well. So this is really cool. I never heard of this band SOHN, I guess is how you pronounce it. But when I was at the Florida Audio Expo in 2024, Focal was doing some demos and they demoed their one of their latest towers. And I could not believe the bass that was coming out of their speaker. It was a song, Tremors. Just sounded beautiful on their speakers. And I went home and I listened to this. And if you've got serious subwoofers, you're going to appreciate Tremors. And I just love the spatialness of the recording. It's very expansive. It does really well upmixed. This is another one of those examples when you take a recording like Tremors with a lot of that decorrelated information that goes through an upmixer. It sounds like discrete Atmos. It does sound like you're listening to a native multi-channel recording. So I would check out Tremors and give me some comments down below if you guys have done so. Seal is in Atmos, so I don't want to go over that one here, but his recordings always sound good, as does Sting. I think these are all in Atmos too, so Soul Cages is not in Atmos, but this is one of those kind of expanded stereo CDs. I remember when it came out and they talked about how expansive it is. It's a good recording. It does sound good. So if you're a Sting fan, check it out. See if I go over anything else. Tool. I would definitely check out Tool. Chocolate Chip Drip is an impressive demo. It's a drum demo. It's a drum track demo. It's just very dynamic. It'll get you in the mood that you want to be in if you're into hearing some explosive drums, kind of Rush style drums. It's kind of a cross between Rush and Tool. I guess I could only say Tool has their sound. They sound like Primus. They sound like Rush, that kind of music, if you like that. Yeah, so that's just a sample of key tracks or key albums that I have in my Apple playlist. Of course, I listen to a lot more music than what's just there, but some of that stuff caught my attention enough for me to add it to a playlist and something that I come back to regularly. So why don't you guys give me some comments down below? Tell me what your favorite 2-channel music is. Maybe I'll take a listen and I'll comment on it on a future video. If you like this video, please hit the thumb up, hit subscribe. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.